You write about a lot about how the outsized wealth of billionaires is also mean outsized impacts on the rest of us. And one of the arguments you make in your book is we can walk through these, but a big one is that billionaires are literally bad for the planet. In fact, that's part of the title of your book. One of the statistics that I found absolutely astonishing in your book is that 20 billionaires emitted an average of nearly 8,200 tons of greenhouse gases in one year compared to just 16 tons of carbon by the average US resident. I'm assuming that's all the yachts and the jets, but wow.
Yes, the ultra wealthy are the super emitters, which is not to say we all need to do our part to dial down our consumption and emissions. But, if we have an US average of about 16 tons of carbon emissions, the top 1/10 of 1% emits about 2.2 tons per day. And that's because multiple houses, flying on private jets, which are the most polluting form of transportation, except for super yachts, which also have tremendous emissions and output. So that kind of billionaire lifestyle consumption is really burning up the planet. And I argue that those are the folks who need to change their behavior the most and probably first before the rest of us have to make fundamental sacrifices. And that's part of the problem, though, is, if you and I are trying to say, oh, well, maybe I should invest in a better vehicle or low emission house or something like that. And then you see, Kylie Jenner flying their jet across town for lunch, you sort of feel like a chump. Like, why am I going through this effort when these other people are behaving this way? So in order to kind of maintain a sense of we're all in this together, the super rich really do have to change their consumption and emissions behavior.
I want to keep going on this thread of how the existence of the billionaire class touches ruins the lives of ordinary Americans, and perhaps in less obvious ways. You mentioned Kylie Jenner, and I think to a lot of people, the lives of billionaires do seem very remote. They're on TV, they're on page 6 of the New York Post, reality shows like the Kardashians, and their lifestyles are marketed to us as entertainment. But your book argues that the way that the billionaires accumulate and maintain their wealth also contribute to other serious problems that we experience, such as the housing crisis. And that was really interesting. Can you explain how you came to that argument and what you discovered?
Yeah, many of our communities are already facing acute housing crises, but I think this imbalance of wealth kind of almost supercharges the existing crisis. One is the wealthy have multiple homes and they are bidding up the cost of land and housing. But in order to understand how these billionaires are disrupting our life, you kind of have to get into your inner billionaire and think, what do I do with $1 billion? You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't have it all in the stock market or in one company. You spread it around. Well, real estate is one of the ways you spread that wealth around. The reason Bill Gates is the biggest owner of farmland in the country isn't because he's interested in carrots, but he just has so much wealth, he needs to park it in lots of places. So that's having a disruptive effect because the ultra wealthy are buying up real estate in multiple markets, rural and urban and suburban. They're building luxury housing, not to live in, but essentially as sort of safe deposit boxes in the sky. And in the worst case, they're investing their money in sort of extractive private equity funds that are trying to make more money on the housing crisis. So you see a lot of funds now moving into single family homes. Well, you think of single family homes as owner occupied, but a lot of people are locked outside the housing market, unable to buy a home. They're going to be stuck in rental housing, but they might want to live in a single family home. They're going to rent it their whole life as opposed to build equity. And so there are whole investment pools just buying up single family homes, mobile home parks, rental housing, converting it to short-term rental. All those things kind of supercharge the existing housing crisis that our communities are facing.